Hello and welcome to the Art Class Curator podcast. I am Cindy Ingram, your host and the founder of Art Class Curator and the Curated Connections Library. We're here to talk about teaching art with purpose and inspiration, from the daily delights of creativity to the messy mishaps that come with being a teacher. Whether you're driving home from school or cleaning up your classroom for the 15th time today, take a second, take a deep breath, relax those shoulders, and let's get started. I am so excited to welcome my friend Joan Marie to the podcast. Joan is a former art teacher and an artist who creates personal power portraits for her clients now. I love her story of the energy of looking at art and how that changed her life. So I'm so excited to share this story with you. Welcome, Joan. I am so excited to welcome Joan Marie to the Art Class Curator podcast. Welcome, Joan. So I have to be in full disclosure to our listeners. We made it halfway through our interview, and I realized I hadn't clicked record. So we're starting over. So hopefully we will remember all the beautiful golden things that Joan said already. But to introduce Joan to you, she is a fantastic artist and a former art teacher. We were in a business mastermind together in last year, and she has a really wonderful story about how an artwork impacted her career and her journey. So Joan, why don't you give us a quick overview of the type of art that you make, and then you can go right into your art story.
Okay. First of all, Cindy, if only I'd had you when I was an art teacher. Oh my gosh. I bless you for the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So what I'm doing right now is called personal power portraits. I do portraits that express what inspires you. If it's through your power animal or spirit animal or totem animal, or through symbols or your face. And so it's things that inspire you to help you remember who you really are, your power, your beauty, what you love. Because I've needed these reminders my whole life. So that's so the beginning of my career began when I was 19. My first year of college, I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. So the year after my freshman year, I went to a college course in Italy, art history, and I got to see Michelangelo's Sistine ceiling. Oh my gosh, for me, it was like an out-of-body experience. I just swooned. I took in that energy. I couldn't stand straight. I was kind of dizzy with the power, and I just stared and stared, and of course you have to walk slowly, and I could hardly walk. I mean, I was so moved. And then a week later, I got to see the Uffizi Gallery, and I saw Leonardo da Vinci. It's Adoration of the Magi, and I sat in front of it for almost 2 hours. Luckily, I was there by myself, and I just sat there. And, I knew something about these artists, but not that much. It was the energy. I just stared and stared, and I just took it in. And I said, if art is this powerful, I just have to be a part of it, and I have to add art to the world that will add positive energy to the world. So that was my goal. There I have my purpose. Now I know what to do. So I went to college, changed colleges, started as a freshman again. Now I'm my sophomore year, and I have this powerful art professor in this powerful university. And he said, Joan, you don't have what it takes. You shouldn't be an artist. You need to be a home economics major.
What?
That's what he said. He said that. He said, I know. He said, you're not creative. He said, there are 50,000 starving artists in New York City alone, and you don't want to be one of them. And, so with tears in my eyes, I came back out, dried my tears, and I said, is creativity something that you can learn, or do you just have to be born with it? And he said, you have to be born with it, and I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Well, they say that when people insult you, that you only take it in if you kind of believe it. And I did already kind of believe it. I was already insecure from my childhood or whatever. And, so I took that in. So here I had these two powerful things going on. I've got this Michelangelo and Da Vinci. You're an artist. You need to do this. Speaking is powerful. I mean, I was hyper, and I wasn't hyper before Michelangelo. I became hyper. And anybody who knew,
Really?
yes, anybody who knew me before, I mean, I was, you know, like happy, kind of a, you know, sort of upbeat person, but, you know, but after I knew what my goal was, I said, oh my gosh, my art is like average. It was a little above average in high school, but it wasn't like one of the top, you know, like, you're going to be an artist. You're so good. You know, I was, you know, I didn't think I was good enough. So, you know, wanting to be good, I said, okay, now that I'm driven, I am going to, you know, I was so driven to work, you know, it's my skills, develop my skills. So here this teacher is insulting, you know, my skill or my creativity and my skills. And because he wouldn't hardly look at what I was doing in my life drawing class. But then I worked so hard because I said, you have no idea. I said this to myself. I said, you had to that professor. I said, you have no idea how badly I want to be an artist. I mean, Angela tells me. He knows that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I believe him, you know. So I had a goal, you know, and then, you know, and there were two professors who insulted me. I won't go into the other story. Anyway, so I had this, you know, like, so I went to be an art teacher immediately from college, and I decided to teach creatively so that I could develop my creativity. So I watched the students be creative, and I developed creativity. So after 10 years of teaching at that time, students said, well, you taught us to be creative. Now it's time for you to go out and be creative. I was like, that's so cool. Thank you. So I got involved in art licensing, and I did a line of art for licensing, and it really took off. And, you know, like, I thought, oh my gosh, I made it as an artist. I made it as an artist. And then, they stopped selling, like the you know, on cups and mugs and T-shirts. Suddenly, I was doing kitty cats and unicorns, and suddenly kitty cats and unicorns stopped selling. And oh wait, I forgot a big. Anyway, so I went back to teaching, and you know, life. You know, let me. So the kitty cats and unicorns stopped selling, and I said, so. Well, what do I have to do to make, you know, to sell, you know, to sell? Like, what are, and they said, well, what's popular is petunias. And I said, petunias? Are you kidding me? Like, okay, I could draw a petunia, but my heart's really not in it. It's really not going to take off. Like, wait a minute, did I quit teaching to draw kitty cats and unicorns anyway? So I went back to teaching to where I was free to do what I wanted to do. But I missed a part. So before I was back teaching, the big powerful shift that I missed was going to Sedona.
Oh, right, yes.
My art licensing, I moved to Sedona, and that's a whole nother story. Like, graduate school was so tense for me. Like, I got into graduate school at that point because of my ability to draw the human figure, which is what the past professor had insulted me. You know, I worked so hard and I got so good at it. But my art wasn't speaking. It's like, no matter how much I drew the human figure and the hands, I said, if Michelangelo, you know, if I can draw a figure, I can do anything, right? Like Michelangelo. So I drew. And I got so good to draw the figure well, but I said, it's not speaking to me like Michelangelo speaks to me. Like, it's missing something. So, and the tension that was happening on the campus, you know, should I tell that story? What happened, the tension on campus?
Yes, no, I like that story too. It was good. It adds to it.
So I was in graduate school, and the tension, like they were about to kick me out of school, like graduate school. I was on probation because I had given birth to my baby, my daughter, and I was drawing her all the time because that was my passion. Like, she was my world, you know. And I'm nursing her; she was my whole world, you know. And they said, stop drawing your baby. You know, what you were doing before her was, you know, was good, but now it's like, ugh. And they said, if you have to draw a baby, draw with no face or draw like a rock, and, you know, with no emotion. I was like, what? You know, but that's what was going on in New York City in the galleries. Like, it was really intense, dark times of big paintings with no emotion, dark, you know, showing a lot of tension in the world. And it's like they were trying to create New York artists. And, you know, I was just way too, you know, happy, like lovey-dovey with my guests, with my beautiful baby drawings. I mean, they were not traditional baby drawings. They were amazing. I mean, I can say that now. but they, but they gave me a hard time. So that I won't. Oh my gosh, I got to tell you. So I got through probation. All the teachers come through and decide, that you have to hang all your work. So I did this series of bunch of art that with no emotion, copying Eng and Michelangelo, and copying, photos of picture people with no emotion, and collage of mess, 3 huge panels of this, figuring I bet they'll love this stuff. And then I put a whole wall of Madonna and mother and children, reproductions of all the famous artists of art history. There's, Xerox copies of all these famous, mother and daughter, or mother and child. And they walk through and they go, "We love your new art." And I was like, and then they look at my wall of Xeroxes and they're like, "Okay, we see what you're saying, right?"
I love that you did that.
I know.
That's so subversive. That's
so
good.
Then they're in the meeting deciding if I'm going to get taken off probation or not. And I hear, they tell me the story, not them, but some people that were there, scream. 2 professors, the dean of the school and another professor, screamed to keep me in. The other 2 screamed to kick me out. There were 4 professors, 2 and 2, fighting.
Wow.
I mean, it was a screaming match. I thought, oh my gosh, like so much intensity. Like, she's really talented, keep her in. She's really, whatever, they insulted me, And I was like, I can't stand this tension. And my daughter's like this little precious, 2-year-old. So I left. I moved to Sedona, and that's another story how I just ended up, like, I didn't know Sedona was a spiritual vortex. I didn't know it was a vortex of energy. I didn't know that. I just was drawn and ended up there. It was like magic, it was a magical story. It's a whole other story. Yeah. And that's where my art started speaking, because the spiritual energy I was getting, it's just, it just came, I don't know, it just shifted. I did a lot of classes, spiritual classes, to open up and to free up and to relax, because the tension on campus and the tension I was putting on myself, because I didn't think I was good enough, like all those years of teaching, all those years of working, I wasn't good enough, so that tension was gone. So in Sedona, I finally just relaxed because I was told you have to, like, in order to progress in life, you have to love who you are right now, or you won't progress. And I was like,
yep.
Love who I am now. Like, I'm kind of an average artist, in my opinion. I realize better than average, but I still was so down on myself. So, like, in Sedona, I finally relaxed enough that the spiritual energy could come through, and my art started speaking.
I love that. It's funny because I think I have mixed feel. Okay, I think what your professors did was obviously like pretty shitty and wrong, but hopefully no kids. Sorry, but I think about myself now, looking at like when, like, just yesterday, someone emailed because they see the word curator and art class curator, so they think I know all about being a curator. But they asked, well, my daughter wants to be a curator. What does she do? And I'm like, well, she's going into a really highly competitive field that doesn't make a lot of money, that she has to get a graduate degree for, that this and that. And so it's like, that's me, like, turning people off of their dreams when I think of, so I have to mix, because I catch myself doing that. It's like they almost don't want, they want to save you from the pain of it. But it's also like, when you know what you want to do and you have a passion for it, nothing's going to deter you. And that's what your story is. Like, you had these people telling you no, but you never stopped pursuing it through your whole life, searching that feeling, which I think is magic. And I think we need to give people more opportunities to feel that feeling.
I think if that professor would have said, in my opinion, and this is my experience, I'm just trying to save you, but,
right.
but just know what you're kind of, get ready to face possible big challenges, because this is what I'm observing. But for him to say, this is it.
That is a much better approach.
It's still like, it's up to us to interpret what people say. Like, we, for our own benefit, it's not his fault, that he did it the way he did it. It's not. Anyway.
I would like to think that professors these days are not maybe quite so.
Yeah, it was pretty big at the
abrasive.
time. That was in the 70s, early 70s. So yeah, things were pretty macho.
Yeah.
My school was, you know.
Tell you to get a home economics degree. Good
Yeah,
Lord.
I
Oh my
know. I
gosh.
mean, that was classic chauvinist, wasn't it? Oh my
Wow.
God.
Okay, so how did your art once you got to Sedona, relaxed, and felt that feeling again that you felt with Michelangelo? How did your art change?
All right, so then I went into art licensing, and that's when I did the kitty cats and unicorns, and then the public stopped buying them. And then, you know, my big thing is when things fail, your life's being guided to something else. So it's like suddenly I went, wait a minute, I didn't quit teaching to become a kitty cat unicorn artist, even though I loved drawing them and I had a lot of passion for them. It wasn't everything I'm supposed to be. So I went back to teaching because I have a heart for teaching. I mean, I really love it. But also because I had time to I could be an artist every night and weekend and all summer. I mean, I just did art constantly. And then I had art to bring into the students to show them on a regular basis what I'm working on and share my passion for what I'm doing. And, you know, it was really a good thing that they saw me as a working artist because I really felt like a full-time artist and a full-time teacher. Which also didn't help my confidence because I felt like I couldn't focus on one. That's where, if you had only been, Cindy, if I had had what you had, it would have made my confidence so much better, right? You know, to have your materials, it just didn't happen. But then,
Well, I know a lot of teachers that started out, you know, wanting to be artists lose a lot of that when they start teaching because teaching is such an exhausting thing, and it's such a creative thing too that your creative energy is sucked out of you too, so that by the time you're at the end of the day, it's hard to make your own art. How did you find, like, how did you do that? Be able to work all night and
I say thank you, Michelangelo. He was just always
yeah,
with me. I mean, all I can say, I have a lot of energy. I mean, I'm hyper. I mean, I
yeah,
became hyper. It wasn't like always hyper, but after Michelangelo, that hyperness, although even I was told hyperness the hyper that I was really hyper was when you're really not happy with who you are because you're always anxious to be someone else.
oh
You're rushing, trying to be someone else, and you're never happy in the moment. So I tried to calm that down a little bit, but I still, my energy level has always been high, you know, because I mean, I was with 6 art teachers in my school. Is that heaven or what? We had
that's amazing. Yeah.
and so the 5 other art teachers, they never did art, like almost never, maybe some over the summer. And so I know I heard that all the time, but I just wasn't one of those. I just had the energy and the drive. I was so, it was in me. It's that in you that just has to come out. You know, I couldn't be happy unless I was doing it. So unless I was doing art.
Yeah. So do you find that when you're making art, do you feel does that sort of hyperness and that energy, does it calm down and like
Yes,
regulate?
totally at peace.
Yeah.
Totally at peace. I do tons of detail, and people go, "How do you have the patience for all that detail?" I just go, "I just love every minute of it." You know, it's the totally opposite, right? But then, you know, okay, so now I'm back teaching, and I did a whole series of women, powerful women, you know, spiritual
Mm-hmm.
women. Like every spiritual lesson I learned, I did a drawing about. I did a drawing about it, and so I was, you know, showing my power that all the lessons I was learning. And then I started writing my book, and my book was, and I was spending so much time doing that, I couldn't do art. So it was like, I have to do some kind of art. So I just went down to my studio and started throwing some paint around. I went, whoa, that's really cool. So, I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was just supposed to be kind of a therapy thing. So for 3 years, I did nothing but abstract art. And that is when my energy, you know, like I stood on ladders and I tipped and I threw paint. Like the room covered everything with plastic and threw paint and, you know, just went crazy. Big canvases, and, you know, I got all this stuff in galleries, and it was just really exciting. And yeah, that took physical energy. But my other work is very tedious. And yet
Yeah.
when I sketch it initially, you know, I have to have that physical energy to sketch the feeling, you know. So
Yeah.
and that's why I exercise and stay in shape myself, because I have to have that physical energy to put into my work, you know, even when I'm doing, you know, to start it and to end it, you know, to make sure it maintains that vitality and the feeling. So,
Yeah. I never thought about that. Keeping yourself fit so that you could put that into your art. That's
Well, it was something I believed in. I thought, so it was
makes
just something.
sense.
It made sense to me. I don't know if it just made sense. So it's something I did, but and because I need to run and fast walk and stuff, and I just need to get that out. But anyway, so after I did the abstract, because the galleries, when I did a big show like in Miami of all my abstracts, I found that I was saying that I can do people too, like they're all like really realistic and capture spiritual feeling. I was like kind of making an excuse or just telling them this other side of me. And so I really couldn't promote or feel really confident and market or with all my heart, because I felt a part of me was missing. So then I started combining my animals and abstract, and my people, with abstract. So I kind of combine the two. This is, I don't know if you can see that so good, but that kind of, anyway. Okay. But you kind of combine the abstract with real, and then I retired from teaching. I was 65 and I got to retire with a pension. Like I was very excited that my school pays good pensions, and I was so anyway. So now I'm a full-time artist. I'm like, so what can I focus on? Because I always had this trying to do the business of art while I'm teaching. And you can, like it takes 50% of your time to do business and 50% to do art. So I had very little time to do the business of art. So now I could focus on the business of art with my art. So what do I focus on? What style of art, am I going to land on? And as I was selling shows, as I was doing shows, I found that my unicorns were selling really well. So I said, oh my gosh, I'm a fantasy artist. So I went to Comic-Con in LA and I did this big show, with dragons and unicorns and like all the fans. I said, I'm a fantasy artist. That's who I am. And so I started promoting, putting a website, like do all that. And then I ended up joining the program that you and I were in, and I did a double-headed eagle for Jim Fortin, and that just changed my whole life. Like there's Michelangelo. That is where the power is. There's the spiritual, like it's huge. Like that particular picture was 5 feet wide and like 3.5 feet tall, and it was just powerful, spiritual, and creative. But it expressed all those things that Michelangelo has been speaking to me. Positive, confidence. So now I finally found my voice through all those stages. I think I've covered all my stages.
Well, for those of you listening, I am going to put a picture of that artwork in the show notes. And I have had the privilege of seeing it in person, and it is just absolutely exquisite. And I love how you can see all of these past phases. You can see your fantasy, you can see the whimsy, you can see like the magic all in this just absolutely stunningly powerful animal power what do you call them again?
Personal power, like personal power portraits.
Personal power portrait. And so it's just beautiful. It has gold and it has a double-headed eagle. Is there a jaguar in there too?
No.
No, I'm thinking of the one you did for Adam.
Yeah.
Does Adams have a jaguar?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it's just beautiful. So throughout your whole life, you started with Michelangelo and that feeling, and then tirelessly spent your whole career in search of that feeling. So now what are you going to do now that you've found it? What are you doing now?
Well, I'm marketing and promoting the personal power portraits, and I'm doing a series of power animals looking to the light. I call it the Power Animals Looking to the Light. Actually, here's one. See how it's really big. I don't know if I should try to show it.
I've seen that one on Facebook.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, is that a hawk or an eagle?
That's a hawk.
A hawk with a lion, and they're both looking up to the corner with this, like a sun ray with actual gold coming down into their eyes. Oh, it's beautiful.
So it's looking to the light, and it's represents. So every animal represents characteristics. So I'm pushing that and promoting that, and giving. I'm plenty speeches that give the spiritual essence to our life. I mean, the lessons, that we need to just understand that feeling is what it's all about. When I was putting myself down as a teacher, I realized, I mean, when I retired and I stood on stage and they clapped, for the teacher, each teacher individually, for whoever's retired, you stand on stage individually, and they sit to who's retired. And I stood and I got in the auditorium, I got the hugest applause. And I was really shocked. I mean, I was deliriously happy, and I couldn't believe it because, as an art teacher, you don't teach a whole school or 2,000 kids. Like, you don't teach, you teach a little percent. And I thought, what, how, when I'm putting myself down all the time because I didn't have you to help me, like I didn't have the right PowerPoint or the right thing.
Oh, no.
I'm putting that stuff. What I did do, that why people responded the way I taught, was focused on feelings. It's like feelings, like I love them, number one. Each student, I had them look at artwork and say, what are your feelings? What are you feeling? And like I taught art history a little bit, and one student came back and said, Miss Marie is the best teacher ever. And I was, oh my gosh, I had so much more planning I should have done. How can you say that? But I let him always express himself. And instead of emphasizing the date and the name of the art, like it was emphasizing, you speak, what do you think about that? Express it, what, and compare, feelings. And then the other thing about teaching was I helped students learn to love themselves. Like when you see a work of art that, don't feel bad when you're in a museum and you want to pass by 90% of it, like don't feel bad about that. There's only a percentage that's going to speak to you. But stop a minute and go, why is that speaking to me? Is it the story it's telling? Or, all these things. Is the
I love it, yeah.
The energy. And because that's who you are and that's what matters. And it's your values. Like, that's when I realized that's why this art is working for me, because my top values are spirituality and creativity. So as a teacher, I was able to be creative and I was able to be spiritual in the fact that I learned to love all students, no matter what frame of mind they're in. I don't want to learn, or I'm in a bad, I got beat this morning, or, whatever. Like they were, giving bad energy in the classroom. I would give them love in my, and it would turn them around and, just, so that's spiritual, all that spiritual wisdom, I was able to exercise with each student and helping them learn to love themselves. So all that practice. So I was able to, and I realized my two strongest values, as long as I'm able to fully live my spiritual beliefs and express my creativity, then I'm fully expressed, right? So my art had to be that, like my fantasy art wasn't quite the spiritual thing, and it wasn't powerful. It was too fantasy, and
I love it.
That's
so good.
Even though fantasy is a huge part of me, and the kitty cats are a huge part of me. And when I do a commission work for somebody who, if their power animal is not an eagle and a powerful lion, if it's a kitty cat or a butterfly, I can go there with them, in that beautiful, soft, relaxed, loving state of mind as well. It doesn't have to be all about power, like we're not all in that place. So now I have all those voices within me, because we all have all these voices. But I've had practice in so many, that it's now I can look them out.
I love this because I'm big on, trying to figure out like what your top values are, because I think you can be happy doing anything as long as it's in line with your own self. And so you coming to your students and helping them figure out what their values are and how to express that and how to find that through art, like that's the lasting impact that you're going to make. It's not, having a good PowerPoint, it's your energy and your love and your connection. So I am not at all surprised that you got that standing ovation, mainly because you have like the most warm energy of almost anyone I've ever met. So, like if you ever like meet Joan in person, oh my goodness. but I love that, and I often talk about, when I talk about how to teach from works of art, that so much of it is not in what you say or what's in the art. It's all about how you approach it, your attitude, your energy, your passion, your spirit. Like that is a huge, huge part of it. So it's a really good point. So, okay, I think we've covered all of the main things, and I think it's just your determination to really find that artistic voice is really such an awesome story. So, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up that we missed you might have said the first time we recorded?
Stop pushing, like because I was
Yes.
so hyper, like pushing is pushing away. And,
Mm-hmm.
the Western mentality is push, 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 push. And feeling busy, busy, busy makes you feel like you're accomplishing something. And you're spinning like what is it, that grab the circle or whatever that is. I mean, you go nowhere. And I did that for so many years, like just, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. And Sedona slowed me down and woke me up. And then it was still a bad habit to do that. And I had to keep reminding myself. So it's that slow down and, just follow your feelings, like stop every moment. Like my word this year is focus. Because if you stay focused on several levels, focused on making sure that you're focused with what you're doing, not multitasking. And so, because when you're not focused on what you're doing, you're thinking about the past or the future, what you should be doing or what you did that might have been wrong or what you might wish you wouldn't have done or so, and so your mind's, and then you're not present. And then you're not enjoying the now, and you're not growing, and you're not contributing anything when you're not present. And being aware of your feelings in the moment. Because if you're not feeling good in the moment, what are you doing it for? And if it's something you've got to do, like take out the trash or, all these jobs, we have to do, do a dance while you're in your head, while you're taking it, don't physically do a dance as you're taking the trash out. Come up with some way to make those things that we have to do. It's all about attitude, just keep your energy, it doesn't have to be high up, but just keep it to where it's just feeling peaceful and a good state of well-being, like that's just so huge. That's all there is. As we get so sad when we see young people dying and all these things, it's like, we've only got now, and just live right now in every way that you can to be true to yourself. Why else are you doing it? What else is there? Wake up and be present in the moment. So I guess that's my final thing.
That's good. That's a really good, especially in teaching when it can feel impossible to focus and can get really overwhelming with all the energy, like managing your own personal energy and keeping your own spirit is
because it was teaching, like, if you spend half your time thinking, you're with your students and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't do that, or where's my notes, or where's this, if you just stop and go, wait a minute, I can just help this student right here, right now with this. And wow, it's incredible, the impact, the eye contact you make. You make a point of making eye contact and caring, even if it's just 30 seconds, with a student, because I know I had 30 students in the class. You didn't have a lot of time, but
yeah.
but you just get those 30 seconds of contact, of true connection is deep, stays with them, and
For
they
sure.
feel seen, they feel good about themselves, and it's just, and you feel good about yourself, and it's just all, and then you're not mad that you didn't do that PowerPoint, it's like amazing how that's all there is,
Yeah.
So
that's wonderful. I think that's a beautiful place to end. And thank you so very much for sharing your story with us today. And for those of you listening, you can visit the show notes to see Joan's art and link to your website and your social media channels. So again, thank you so very much, Joan.
Thank you, Cindy. You're awesome. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks again to Joan Marie for joining us in the Art Class Curator podcast today. Like I have said, we want to hear your art story. Send us a voice recording of your art story or send us a voicemail at 202-996-7972. You can check out more of Joan Marie's art at artclasscurator.com/42. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Class Curator podcast. Help more art teachers find us by reviewing the podcast and recommending it to a friend. Get more inspiration for teaching art with purpose by subscribing to our newsletter, Your Weekly Art Break. Recent topics include the importance of seeing art in person, famous and should-be famous women artists, and 21 days of art from around the world. Subscribe at artclasscurator.com/artbreak to receive 6 free art appreciation worksheets. This week's art quote is from Pablo Picasso. He says, "Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up." Thanks so much for listening. Have a wonderful week.